Alright. I had problems making the beginning of this video. I've actually redone this a couple of times because, and I know people say, oh, it's because you didn't like the show. Oh no, you see the title. This was very good. But I have to put this in perspective for what we got. You already know we got the partnership between NXT. There's more than a few people are excited thinking that people from the Raw and SmackDown rosters are going to go there. And I've told you, they're not going to do that. TNA is considered low-hanging fruit for TKO WWE. It's an extension of their developmental. That's what they're seeing TNA. And TNA has decided, well, guess what? I'm more than happy to do that. And I did see the Sleg Daddy's own video talking about this. And he feels they sold out. And to be honest, they did. They were supposed to be the original alternative compared to AEW. And now they're in a partnership with WWE, taking in and basically training to a certain extent when they're willing to show them, possibly more now, their lowest ranked wrestlers. Let's make that very clear. Anyone who's on this show, let's make it clear. Anyone, every last person that showed up other than Latefield, pretty much is low-hanging fruit to the TKO WWE brands. Does make a difference if it's Raw, SmackDown, or NXT. They don't really have a huge amount. Now, I know you're going to say, what about the tag champs? I'll get to them in a few minutes. But still, let's make it very clear. We are still dealing with low-hanging fruit. Doesn't mean they're bad-hanging fruit. I want to make that clear. It's not about them being bad wrestlers, but they're considered not that important. At least not yet. So that's what they've been given here. That's the truth. Now, what do we get in the very beginnings in the kickoff? Well, we got a new ring announcer. Don't recognize her. And I didn't see them flash her name across. I don't remember her. I think at one point she did do an interview or two in the back, but I just don't remember her name. And pretty much Jade Chow is gone. She is done. That's the reason why the woman is there. Also, the arena in Dallas, Texas looked quite nice. It was a big, large arena. I think I got a picture of it. It's in my face. I felt, and I want to make this clear, very clear, I am not against TNA. I never was. I just gave fair criticism. Every arena they went to felt too damn small, counting if they could afford to go into a bigger one, or better yet, it wasn't just about them being small. It was just so darkly lit. It didn't feel like anything. They weren't the old black and gold NXT. This is TNA. They needed their own style, and it felt like they were copying that. So seeing the entire arena felt very nice to see. Seeing that they didn't have just one or two cameramen, they had 3 cameramen. And then the hard cam was wonderful. It's good to see they did it. The lighting was generally alright. There was plenty of space around the ring. So the cameraman could step back and get a full frame like this. All the things that I complained about when you did the Impact Plus or the pay-per-views, they've taken care of at least in this show, which I hope they continue. And I felt immersed in this. And that's what I want to make very clear. One of the major problems that TNA had, or Impact, they never had immersion anymore. They lost immersion. They lost immersion when it came to the camera because they had terrible camera work. They lost immersion when it came to the audio. Audio was terrible. And the lighting was bad. It wasn't just because of the small venues, which did not help. It's just they lost it. And the last couple of months, they've improved. And I will give them credit. Here at Genesis, it felt like an important pay-per-view. And that was half the battle. If you can't make it feel important, why do you care? Why do you even want to be there? Or better yet, which makes them the most money, why would you give money online or in a traditional cable environment to a show that looks like shit? It makes no difference how much you say. And understand, I'm not against anyone who's watching me. But who gives a blue fuck about us? We may love TNA, but the people at home who give the real money that makes TNA work, they may not like it. And that's what you guys never understand and what I've told you for years. It makes no difference what you care about. It cares about the people like this, what we're watching, what you're watching me. Remember, the ones who give a huge amount of money, like yourself, like me, I give as much as I can, they want more than just to have crappy camera work, crappy lighting, crappy environment, crappy audio. They want more, and half the battle was getting it done right. And they did it here. I will tell you this. I did enjoy seeing Busted Open Radio there with Dave, with... I really, really hope Mark Henry shows up more. It was nice seeing him on TNA. Something you would never have seen before. You would have never seen Mark Henry in TNA. Never. Never. Of course, he was still locked into a Legends contract. And then he was locked into a contract with AEW. Showing up on TNA, I hope that Mark comes back and does it again. I really beg that he comes back again. Because Mark Henry is charismatic. Mark Henry could have a bit on the damn show. Even if he's not hired, show up a couple of times. People will really care about the show more with Mark there. Now, opening of the show. We got, let me give it to you like this. Ashanti Adonis showing up. Well, let's make it Ariana Grande. I wasn't surprised if she was going to show up. Look, we know NXT is going to have more interaction with TNA. They want more interaction because they notice, one, the ones who worked at TNA, like Charlie Dempsey, like some of the women who showed up as well, they actually gained something working in another company. Remember, like I said, TNA is based an extension of their developmental now. It is. It doesn't make it when you say they didn't buy them out. It's not the point of buying them out. They don't need to buy TNA to make them an extension of their developmental. And that's what you do not understand. If they're working with a company that may not be considered indie, but could easily be considered on another version of WWE that gets a lot more than what you would normally get. They have a different way they work compared to WWE. When they were WWE, and now with TKO WWE, TNA is different. They have a different mindset in the back. They have different types of people that produce that might have been in WWE at one point. Maybe they might have worked in WCW, ECW. Maybe some of the people you normally would not meet there. And they would have a different type of way to show these people something new. Like having an indie promotion, even though it's not indie. It is a major promotion that has been always on the heels of WWE that had produced some of the greatest wrestlers they currently have on TKO WWE. So, seeing this, trust me, it is an extension. They're getting paid. If you think they're not getting paid some level of money, and Anthem's own CEO is not saying, I'm currently working with TKO Group Holdings. One of my satellite companies is actually making money, more money. Okay, I can cut their budget. Remember, there's budget cuts. Now, mind you, I'm not saying they're not still getting money from TKO WWE, and that could help compensate for the budget cuts. But still, they're working for TKO WWE. They're an extension. Now, the question is going to be how much. But bringing in Ashanti Adonis, going back, and working with Jake Something, it was an okay match. Ashanti is not a bad wrestler. Never was. It's just they never booked him right. And on NXT currently, the story he has with Carmen Petrovic, if they're still going with that one, is still a big question where they're going to go with both of them. Don't know yet. But in the end, I did not expect him to win. He was the first one to be sacrificed to TNA because this was meant to help them. And that's what happened with Jake Something. Next match, Leon Slater versus Kaz. Here's the problem. We already know the match was alright. It was good. But here's the problem. Oh, I got allergies. And here's the thing. Kaz is the Call Your Shot Gauntlet champion. He's got the cup. And seeing that he was going to win, I knew he was going to win. But the question now is, what are they going to do with Leon Slater? He's one of those people that's been coming back and forth for more than a year or two with TNA. And he's still very young. And I would like to see him have a more stronger role on the company. In the shows. Haven't done it yet. So I'm hoping the beginning of this year they will do more with him. But do I believe that? I don't know. I don't. Maybe they'll let him go over to NXT, maybe. But to be honest, they wouldn't normally do that. They'll only send their best over to NXT they believe could be useful. Like a Jake something, like a Macklin, like an Eric Young, maybe. But you understand what I'm saying. But Jake wins. Well, not Jake. I'm thinking Jake something's going to be maybe, from the men, maybe he'll be the first one to go over there. Because Hammerstone went over there, you see Jake maybe over there. I don't think Leon Slater would go. He's too inexperienced. And that makes me think, why don't they start showing him on TV so he can gain experience? The question is, will they show him after this? First match of the show, X Division. Moose versus Ace Austin. VidPack was good. A little, well, not VidPack, but the VidPacks during the kickoff were good. Then we see Moose come out with the new title, which looked pretty good. Then we got the match itself. Of course, Moose had to be helped. So you're going to have JTC come out. You're going to have Eddie Edwards come out. They're going to do what they can to help. And I did not expect I know a lot of people would say, well, Ace Austin has gotten a lot of traction since I'm going to say this. And I say this again. I may still question if TNA is going to be great. If it's going to be alright. I still don't feel totally comfortable with what's going on, like with the budget cuts. Even though they're now getting more money due to the fact of this partnership with TKO WWE. Remember, they're still going to get budget cuts. But I'm not going to take away what they've done when it came to Chris Bay. There is no way. If you say that the company's shit, I would understand your feelings about it. But I cannot say personally when it comes to the staff who really care. They care about Chris. They really want people to understand that Chris Bay was important to them. Not only was it still talked about during the match, but later in the night, they showed a vid pack of Chris Bay. I believe I got a shot of him. He's in my face. They're still talking about his GoFundMe. They don't need to do this anymore. Understand, they don't. There's no contrast. You see me botching about contractual obligations. They don't need to. They're letting him still be a part of TNA. His contract is still valid, even though he's not working. They're still letting him be on the roster. If you go over the TNA page when they show the roster, he's still there. He hasn't been removed. They legitimately are still advertising for any merch that could be sold, any music that could be from him, and it will go to him. They still care about him. And to me, even if I don't agree with the president of TNA, I don't agree about some of the things they've done, like with Tesss, how things were when it came to when you see the roster getting upset. I will address that in a few minutes. See how the situation is, where they're cutting budget and they're telling them they're going to have to cut their pay. I may critique it. I may complain about it. But this I will never complain about. Now, I did not expect Chris Bay. The connection between Chris and Ace is so strong. It's like you can't say one without the other. It was like Chris pretty much was there, literally rooting for him at ringside, because that's how they made it. That's how they made it feel. That even though Chris was not there, he was there. It was like he was rooting for him. But in the end, he did not win. And with that new title they showed, I didn't expect them to actually just to just send it over to Ace, where he may just revert it back to the old title when they just revealed it now. So I didn't expect that. Now, after that, they wanted to beat down on Ace, and Macklin and EY come out, and then the next match happens within about a minute and a half, not counting the fight. Say within about a minute or so, when they come, well, I'd say about 3 minutes once they came down, that's when they started. But pretty much when the fight happened is pretty much part of the match itself, even though it's a standard tag team match. Macklin versus Eddie, and I thought it was going to be Eddie Edwards who jobbed here. It was Brian Myers. And he jobbed to, who was it? Macklin. Now, I'm not saying that's going to give Macklin anything, and it's not going to take anything from Bryan at all. Neither way. Not unless it's going to be some type of title opportunity. But I will tell you, it was a good match. All of them seemed to got very good chemistry together, so they knew how to make it look good. Now, had there been maybe one or two botches, yeah, of course, it was not too bad. But I did like the match. It was a good match. Next, another tag match, but this time it was from the women. It was from the Knockouts. It was the Tag Team Championships. Ash and Heather Elegance versus Spitfire. I gotta say this before we get to this. You guys tell me below. Jody Threat. I'm not a big fan of Jody. Doesn't mean I don't like her. I like her, but I'm not a huge fan of her. But I gotta give it to this woman. This woman has abs of fucking steel. Dude, that woman's got better abs than many men who work wrestling. She got cut. That woman got abs of steel. Looks like you can bounce a quarter and fly away and pretty much hit the ceiling. How tight those suckers are. Like boom, boom, boom. She worked her ass off to get that body. But when you see the match, you're going to say, oh, here we go. Ash is going to be in this match. I mean, Heather is good. You got Danny Luna, who's good. And then you got Jody. They're all good wrestlers. But Ash, oh, she's just, please. No. I've always stated, and I will keep stating it, that when it comes to it, when it came to the original Dana Brooke, Ash is not a bad wrestler. Is she average? Yes. That's the way she is. But it does not mean she cannot wrestle. She can wrestle. And she did a very good job during this match. And in fact, she actually looked much better than she normally does. Because she understood, this is Genesis. She has to make it look good. She's got to work harder. Now, were there a couple of botches? Yeah, like Heather looked a little confused working with Ash when she wanted to grab either Jody to throw her into the turnbuckles, or how she was going to do the moves at first. It looks like there was a little confusion of what side she needed to grab or where she wanted to grab. But as time went on during the match, Heather did get into it. Now, before we get to that, seeing that Heather and Ash came out looking like the Dallas Cowboy dancers. I always liked the Cowboys when I was young. I'm sorry. I'm not going to say that the Dallas Cowboys were the greatest football team there was. I used to love football. I haven't watched a football game in decades. I gave up on that a while ago because my team basically looked so damn bad at one point. It pissed me off and I just got turned off. Now, I'm not going to take anything away from the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. And seeing that they look like it, and let's make it clear, Ash literally had to tie that top so tight around here, it looked like it wanted to just go pop. But I will say the match actually was pretty good. Now, did I believe that Spitfire was going to lose here? No. I just don't believe that Spitfire was going to win here. I just didn't. Now, we do know, before we get any further, we do know that Ash has signed again with TNA. She is not leaving. And as far as I know with Heather, she's not going anywhere either. There was nothing on the website talking about Heather of Elegance basically leaving the company. She signed as well. So we will still keep Ash and Heather together. The question is, what would they do with them next? They're kind of comedic. Let's make it clear. For the knockouts, they're comedians, pretty much. Doesn't mean they can't get serious when they need to. But I think that's what their goal is. Along with the concierge, that's what they get. Now, he looked pretty good when he dressed. I mean, dapper, like that. But let's make it very clear. They weren't meant to win. But it's all right they didn't win. Next. The match I thought that would be further up on the card. But I'm taking a guess they decided to do it quickly, due to the fact of everything else that was going through the show. We got Jordynne Grace versus a Tessa Blanchard. Now, this was the best match. It was. As a straight-ass match for the women, this was the best match as a straight match. Not talking about the Orange Clockwork Funhouse match or the tag match. This was the best match of the three. It just was. So, I did not expect Tessa to lose here. She was not meant to lose. We knew she was going to win. Just counted how the booking of the match was going to be. Will there be at least a back and forth, or would there be just straight out one was going to beat the crap out of each other and then the other one was going to beat the crap out of each other? No. We got a back and forth, which I found to be a much better match than just Tessa just taking out a Jordynne Grace and then Jordynne Grace taking on a Tessa. It was constant back and forth. The opening was basically Jordynne just going straight at her, trying to break her neck and trying to beat the crap out of her. So, excuse me. As I said, I got allergies right now. But I will say it was very good. Now, they did do that eventually, where Jordynne did give in and Tessa was beating the crap out of her, and Tessa the same thing. But there was a lot of back and forth, which I found to be a lot more than the back, one going one side, one going the other. It was more back and forth than anything else. Now, I'm sure not everyone's going to like that because they'd rather see just one side be dominant to the other. But it was done well. Now, let's make this very clear. And I got to say this right now. Do I believe Tessa has done great? In this match, she did fine. Do I believe she's been doing well in the back? As far as I've heard, there's no controversy at this moment. But I also understand that Tessa is not signed, at least at the moment, a few days before this show and this match. She was not signed to TNA yet. Now, will she be? Possibly. Or she may not want to sign and just basically come in pro bono. Well, pretty much not pro bono. She will get paid for whatever appearances she does if she's not signed. But here's what I got to say, and I want to make this clear. You should listen. Watch and wait. I'm saying it again. Watch and wait with Tessa. Because this is where we're going to find out what was the terms of her coming back. We already know that someone at Anthem convinced Tessa to go there and to have her join. Now, is she going to be signed there? I don't know. As far as I know, she will be signed. But we need to know what will be the terms of her coming back. Because, and I'm making this clear, if Tessa doesn't go through the roster, whatever women they have, they don't have a large amount of women. And if she goes through the entire roster, maybe also jobbers from outside and maybe a few NXT women, and she builds herself up to go to the Knockouts Championship against Marsha, I wouldn't have a problem. I'm sure many others won't have a total problem. There's always going to be someone that doesn't like her. But if she's built correctly in the company and she behaves herself and there's no major controversy with her, no matter if people don't like her, the voices that don't like her will be way less than the voices who do like her. But if she, within 2 months, gets a shot at Marsha's title, goes through everyone, destroys them, and then goes right for that title and possibly wins it, no one is going to believe her. No one is going to like her. I'm going to tell you right now, particularly myself, I want a real story with Tessa coming back and proving that not only is she dominant, that she can play within the rule. In other words, she's got to be booked correctly. She cannot just get a rise out of nowhere. That is ludicrous. She can't. If she gets that title in 2 months, 3 at the most, that's wrong. With all the controversy she's had, I'd rather see her take 4 or 5 months to get that damn title, not within 2 months. She's not Naomi, not Trinity. Trinity was different. When she joined TNA, it was because of how bad WWE treated her. She dropped her titles, took a ball and went home, and then when she was no longer working with the company, that is when she went to TNA. There's a big difference because when she left because of principle, because she knew that tag title with Mercedes sucked. Here, she didn't even want to work. She decided to stay where she was. She didn't want to do her obligations. There was a big difference. And since then, there's been controversy. You never heard anything from Trinity or from Mercedes being a problem from anyone. 0. So she's got to prove it. If they just throw her into the main title picture within 2 minutes, 2 months, There's going to be a lot of controversy. People are not going to believe that she is being booked correctly and that she's some type of politicking. And no one's going to like it. But let's move on. Next match. And this was the match I felt was the best match of the night. Because it proved a lot. The I Quit match. Josh Alexander versus Santana. We knew that this match was going to be a good one. And it was. Seeing how far Santana and Josh had to go, at one point, you saw that I hadn't seen them doing it in a while. The sock with the possible soap in it, that's what some people do. If you really want to hurt somebody. With a Josh Alexander's hands basically bound behind his back. And I believe I got a shot of him almost getting smashed into the steps, which made him quit. Santana's going to whack with him with that hardened soap, hitting him in the side, supposedly making him bleed from his mouth, which of course you know how. But the point is, they tried to make this mean something. This was the best overall match, not because of how well both of them worked, which they worked both very well. Seeing that Santana kicked out of the C4 spike, because it wasn't about if he was knocked unconscious or if he got pinned. Once Josh did the C4 spike, no one ever gets up from it, but he gets up. He literally gets up, kicks out of it, and everyone said that's never happened before. Never. And I found that was a nice point to go by. Flat out, that was a nice point to go by. But after it was over, the match was done. And I felt it was done pretty well because once Josh said I quit, Santana said, get your ass up. You said that if I beat you, you'll stand in front of me and shake my hand and respect me. I won. Get up on your ass and shake my hand. And he does. And he says, you know what? I'm a man of my word. I will shake your hand. I said I quit, and now I quit TNA. And then he rolls out of the ring and goes away. Now, Santino's supposed to address that this Thursday on the live, I believe it's a live show, the first live show of TNA in 8 years. It better be more than just one live show in 8 fucking years. I'm saying it now. If it's only one show they ever do for the entire year that's live is bullshit. They should have gone live last year, and they could go live this year more than once. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. If you say, dude, you don't understand. It was difficult. No, it was not difficult. They could have gone live last year. They could have done 1 or 2 shows live. And that was before the hurricane that took them out for almost 2.5 weeks to near 3 weeks. Where they were having problems trying to film and everything. No, don't play that. I know they could have gone live 1 or 2. They could have. And they chose not to. Not counting if it's an Impact Plus show or pay-per-views. They could have done a Impact show. Anyway, let's move on. The next match is for the World Tag Team Championships. The Hardy versus the Rascals. And we get... I don't like Flaxium. I don't. I'd rather call Nathan Frazier and Axiom. Flaxium sucks. I don't like the name. I don't like it. It's garbage. I don't like that name. It just doesn't. Sounds like a fart. Flaxium. Flatulence. Kind of makes you think that, right? Then go... But you get my point. I do not believe they need to be called Flaxium. It just doesn't sound right to me. But Nathan Frazier and Axiom show up. And it was nice to see them show up. There was not a problem. Next to seeing Ashanti Adonis, I was not too surprised that Axiom showed up. And around Frazier. Well, maybe I should take that back. I can't say I wasn't surprised. I was happy. I wasn't surprised. It was more, I was happy to see it. Okay? And taking to what I said in the very beginning of the show when it comes to NXT. Even though Axiom and Nathan Frazier have been prominently featured on NXT TV, they are not going to be that important until they reach the main roster. Now, you could say, well, you always said they'll never show anybody important on TNA TV. Yeah, and that is true. And they did show them here. But what are they doing? What have they done more than just basically going from match to match to match to match to match. They've gone through Out the Mud. They've gone through Gallus. They've gone through Hank and Tank. They've gone through the last team that was the most hardest to beat. And I can tell you, going from match to match to match to match to match to match does not mean you got relevancy. It just means they wanted to throw something on TV to fill in time. What was their story? What story did these two guys have? Yes, they got their asses beat up a lot, and they've always had some type of controversy between each other. There's always disagreements. But Axiom and Nathan Frazier have just done major matches with no story or substance. Yeah, a little tiny sliver of a story. They always have some type of problem where Nathan Frazier opens his mouth, get themselves in trouble, but it doesn't lead to a major storyline. Like I said, that's not relevancy. Holding a title, you need to feel relevant. They never felt relevant, even though I like them both. And I want to make that clear. I actually like Axiom. I like Nathan Frazier. But it's still up to you to believe what you feel. Now, was the match between the Hardys and oh man. How did I feel seeing that, knowing that both of the guys from the Rascals are getting a dream match to go up against two people that they saw when they were young that inspired them to be what they are. And I remember the Impact Diaries of Trey Miguel, and knowing what life he went through, and knowing that one of the ones that inspired him was the Hardys. That he got a chance to go up against the Hardys for a tag title in the company he's been in. I know he had to be so damn happy. He didn't care how much pain he was in. He would have been happy. And I know they were. Now, did they win? No, they did not. And during that moment, we got them, well, who was it? No, was it Wentz who basically face planted into them? I think it was Wentz who basically did a suicide dive outside the ring and nailed Frazier, I think. And then Axiom also got nailed, and they got pissed, and Frazier was pretty hot because they both got nailed. It was not on purpose, but as you know, that's the best way to set up a match, which after the Hardys beat the Rascals, who still had a tag title opportunity because of my boy Wes taking out Trey Miguel because he couldn't wrestle. Pretty much they're getting a second shot at it, but now it's going to be on Impact. This Thursday live, they're going to get this shot at those titles. I would tell you that they are doing something good. Now, do I believe that's going to help TNA in the future? I don't know. If they keep showing more people like this, I don't know if it'll help TNA in the long run. It counts on how they're going to book the match. Of course, they got to still listen to the one that's paying them, saying, we're not going to let you job our people out unless it's going to work for us in our storylines. But I will say, it's going to be nice to see it. But what will it mean long term for TNA? I don't know yet. It counts on what they're going to book after the match. When it comes to Trey, when it comes to Wentz. Remember, seeing these guys on TNA's Impact show, does it give them relevancy? If you guys do not understand about relevancy, you should not be watching wrestling. Because wrestlers don't just want the big bills. They want to feel relevant. If they got a title, like many all want to get a title. But if they can't get a title, they got to feel relevant. Junkyard Dog was relevant, not because he was the strongest guy there. He was the most charismatic guy there. Coco Beware is still remembered because of his charisma and all the fun he does. The Bushwhackers, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, they were all loved because of their certain characters. That's how it works. If you can get people to care about you, even without a title, you can get so over, they're going to give you prominence. They will give you something. And if you don't get it, what is the point of just getting a title which really doesn't mean anything? Like what happened with Jade Cargill. Remember, I'm bringing this in with Jade. Jade Cargill had that TBS title. She did, 59 or 62 wins? What relevancy did she get? Look at her now. She went to WWE, TKO WWE. She became a tag champion, but was she relevant? No. Yes, she's liked a lot because she's working with Bianca. But she looked sloppy in the ring, and it didn't really feel important having her there unless she was working with Naomi or Bianca. Just going like this don't mean anything. Well, actually, it's for the Black Panther, which is so cliche. It's cliche. I'm sorry, but that's just me. Let's move on to, well, time to go to the other page. Rosemary versus Marsha Slamovich in a orange, I believe it's an Orange Clockwork Funhouse match set up by Raven. I think that was like a week or two ago that he was the one that came up with the idea that they should have this match. It's basically a hardcore match or Monsters Ball match. Anywhere, anything goes, any pin anywhere. Was it good? Yes. I'm making it very clear. The Marsha Slamovich match with Rosemary was good. It's been a while since we've seen one. I think 2 years, I believe. Yeah, I think it's 2 years. It's been since we last had one. I don't remember the last one, to be honest. The way things have been, I'm not totally surprised. There was a lot happening in the last 2 years of my life, so it's hard to remember every show and every pay-per-view and every match I've seen. Only a few I can even remember. But I will tell you this was a good match. There was no problem with this match. Seeing the thumbtacks being put onto the rampway, seeing that Marsha gets slanted with screaming like crazy, and you could see I don't believe I got the shot of it, but if I do, I'll put it in my face. Seeing that Rosemary was picking it out with her teeth, not taking out with her hand, ripping it out with her teeth. That was not bad. I liked that she went that far with her character. But there's no way Marsha's going to lose. Particularly, I still have not seen the match or the appearance of Marsha on NXT. I didn't get a chance to watch it. But after the match is over, who do we see come up? Miss Implant. I mean, I'm not trying to be insulting or anything. I'm saying this like this. I'm going to say this about Cora Jade. I've actually liked Cora Jade before she got the implants. I always thought that she was pretty, and she was not a bad character. She also wrestled pretty well. But when she went away to get, I believe, her ACL taken care of, and she decided to get breast implants because there's no way her breast can grow that big coming back like that naturally. They are implants. I think she still looks beautiful. She still wrestles mostly the same, but admittedly, now that she has a heavier chest, she does have to adjust her tactics a little bit because, let's make it very clear. When a woman goes from a smaller chest to a bigger chest, they have to adjust how they stand, how they sit, how they walk. Because once those things are there, their back gets a different feeling. It's just like if a woman was heavy-chested and then had basically shrinking the breast down. And it's pretty much the same. Their posture changes, the way they walk, they stand, everything. So when she came into the ring looking sexy as hell, standing there looking at that title, we know that Cora Jade, who is more up onto the card of NXT. That's a good thing to see. Is she the most prominent person in NXT? No. She's no storyline right now. But she is one that is recognized as at least having some relevancy. Which means that when you see the match between them, either it's going to be on NXT TV or Impact, at least people will know who she is. They will either hate her guts because she is a heel, or they'll still like her because she's likable. It's one of the two. I think if they wanted to do something really special, if they wanted to, they should have brought Roxanne Perez. But since Roxanne Perez is showing up on Raw and then SmackDown, I just do not see Roxanne showing up on TNA. Because sooner or later, Roxanne Perez is going to the main roster, and they're not going to let her show up on TNA unless it's going to be something special. For some reason, something special. Because she's the most prominent woman that is on that roster. Taking away from Zara, from Stephanie Kerr, or Zara. What is it? Zara? This is Zara, yeah. And Julia, Julia. Those women are prominent, but they just started there. The only one that is the most prominent right now is Roxanne. She's ready to go to the main roster. So I just do not see her showing up on TNA or any shows of them unless they think, well, she needs to stay down there because we don't have any place for her. And then she shows up. But that means they'll be throwing the most prominent person on Impact. And the question is going to be, what will the booking be? That's just me. Now, final match. Joe Henry versus a Nick Nimitz. With Ryan Nimitz banned from ringside, but he managed to get a ticket to show up. Now, of course, I'm not forgetting a Busted Open Radio. Seeing Gia Miller there with Dave, with Tommy, and I still say it again, please find a way to bring Mark Henry over there. I truly believe Mark Henry showing up a couple of times. He doesn't have to wrestle, of course. He can either be someone that could be a manager for a couple of months for somebody. I think one of his sons may want to become a pro wrestler. Wouldn't it be great to let him show up on TNA? That he will know that people know him, like Tommy knows his son. So it would really help. But that's not me. I'm just thinking. But they talked about who would win the match. Now, when the match happened, we got a little bit of chain wrestling. Since we know that let's make it very clear. We got a collegiate wrestler and a Nick Nimitz and a, I forgot what style, freestyle. I don't think it was freestyle British wrestling for Joe Henry. I could be wrong, but he became a British national champion at the age of, 24, 25 years old, because he chose to prove that he could be a pro wrestler, and in his 20s, he became a wrestler, and became a legitimate one that won a national championship. That's not something to sneeze at. Both of these guys actually have the chops to do chain wrestling. Admittedly, let's make it clear. If you look at Joe Henry and you look at Nick Nimitz, Nick will be a lot more flexible than Joe. And in the match, it shows. And due to the fact that Joe is not as flexible as Nick, he, as a collegiate wrestler, if he was one, if he had been trained one, he would be a bit too stiff. He's a very stiff guy. Now, in freestyle, I think that was it, Greco-Roman or freestyle wrestling he did back in Britain, he might have been all right, but it counts on how much of that flexibility he needed then. But here you could see, as they were doing the moves, as they were trying to pin one another, as they were doing some level of chain wrestling, which was not bad, you could see the more flexible was a Nick Nimitz. The one who was more stiffer was a Joe Henry, but Joe was much more stronger. He did make that very apparent during the match. It was a very good match between the two. Now, of course, Ryan, who was at ringside, decided that eventually he was going to get involved in the match, even though he had been banned, and like I said, he got a ticket to join. But the main reason he did get involved was because Frankie Kazarian came out with the Call Your Shot Gauntlet, Call Your Shot Gauntlet Cup. He was ready to cash in on both of them because at one point they were both laid out. He was ready to cash in. John Leesfield comes out, clothesline from hell, takes him out. Daniel also again takes out Ryan. And then we get them back to square one. I don't know if they're going to address this on TNA again this Thursday with Nick, because let's make it very clear, Nick lost. But it was time for him. It was time for Nick to lose. Now, I want to make this clear. I do know that one of my subscribers, you know who you are, and I'm saying this, me don't got no problems. But I really do wish you don't always connect articles without your feelings connected to it. As I left in my comment, you left me an article again without your feelings. Why? I want to hear your opinion on that situation. And what I mean here is that if you see on my last, I believe it was my other Impact review, when you see that Nick stated, I do not want to sign a contract, but I'm staying with the company because after being with, he doesn't say this, but pretty much because he went with WWE for so many years, he doesn't want to sign another contract. But he made it very clear. This place means so much to me now. After this year, I'm not leaving. I want to stay. But I just don't want to sign another contract. Pay me? He didn't say this, but this is what I believe. If he's telling the truth, because he has no contract, he can bug out anytime he wants. But if he means what he says, that he loves TNA so much because of what he's gained there, he says, I'm not leaving. I'm not going to leave you guys. I mean it. So if he's going to stay even without a contract, the only thing I have to do is pay him like he was under contract, cool. I have no problem with that. But due to the fact that he will not be signed when his contract expires, there's always going to be that question of, yeah, you say you're going to stay, but there's always a possibility that at any time, you're gone. You don't have to stay. Even with obligation, you can bug out. Not counting if he got injured. I want to make that clear. If he gets injured, that's something entirely different. Totally different if he gets injured. Or if there's some type of emergency that he just can't be there. Not being under contract, there's always that question if he's just going to bug out and head back to WWE or go to AEW. Unless there's some type of arrangement done. But if he is going to stay, that's great to see. He cares. But it was time. So now, he is champion. Hell, his family from Scotland showed up and he gave a big ass hug to his mom and his father. It's great to see that they finally pulled the trigger on Joe Henry. This was a very good pay-per-view. I will not tell you it wasn't. I'm not going to tell you it was 100% perfect, but any problems that were there, maybe a few problems with the camera or the lights, or we didn't see what happened with 23, unless when I went to the bathroom, because I had to go to the bathroom eventually, that 23 showed up. I didn't see that. But when you see the situation with the show, it was very good. Flat out, it was very good. I do not know what's going to happen in the live event. Don't know. That's this Thursday, coming up. Don't know what's going to happen. Will the 23 thing show up? What was going to happen or will happen with Jordynne Grace? Will she appear or that's it? She's done. If her contract is finished, she's finished. She doesn't need to be on TV. Is Josh Alexander going to be gone? Or is he going to show up one more time and then he's going to be gone? Don't know yet. And how are they going to book Joe Henry? This is the one thing we need to understand here, guys. Now that Joe's the champ, how are they going to book him? This is a big question of how they're going to book him, how they're going to book Nick, how they're going to book Moose, how they're going to book a Santana and a Ace Austin. They have a lot of people. Look, they got to book Moose. They're going to book Ace. They're going to book Santana. Counting on if he does come back one more time, what are they going to let a Josh Alexander say? What are they going to do with Nick? What are they going to do with Joe Henry? They got a lot of people that from this moment on, they need to book in a way to make even more buzz and good stories. They can't just keep having matches. They got to have matches that mean something. But I will say this was good. And I hope you enjoy this. Please leave a comment below. This is going to take me a while to edit because I am going to put some images in here. Peace.